All right now, people.
Intro 549. Intro 549. Intro 549.
And I'm saying that because I want all y'all to hit y'all council members up when y'all leave here today and tell them to support this man's bill. Public advocate, Jamani Williams. We thank you for bringing this bill back. We thank you for even, I'm gonna stand for everybody and say I doubt you to get it this far. I thought you was gonna crumble on us and be a flake at one point in time. I give credit where due. Y'all all know who I am and how I am. And so I'm standing here before the people to say, I was part of the group that stayed every week on your team, and I thank you for making sure we have this day tomorrow. Thank you.
Peace and blessings, love and light to everybody. Thank you for the words, even the bad ones. First, I appreciate the credit, but I want to make sure, and I'm sure you shouted out, we shout out Councilman Danny Drum. This bill was council members' bill before me. They left the council and I was second on it, so I got it. But thank you for so much work that you've done previous to this. We don't get here without your work, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you to our Chair Rivera, who's been a huge supporter of co-prime and helping to get through the committee. And in abstention, I want to shout out our Speaker Adams, for really having the courage and the wherewithal and the leadership. Thank you so much. And our council member, all the council members here, thank you so much, council member, for your work and getting it done. And, all our council members, I miss so much. Most of all, thank you to the families who have turned pain into purpose, and all the folks who dealt with it, and then the advocates. We wouldn't be here without you. The UN has designated solitary confinement as torture, but across the river, solitary confinement is still happening on Rikers Island. People say that there's no solitary on Rikers Island, a place where pain is policy. I invite them to the people here who have been through the pain, to say to the people right now who are suffering in isolation on Rikers. We don't believe solitary is ended. We believe the names were changed in hopes that people wouldn't notice or people wouldn't care. We actually care, and we're bringing the voices of people who have endured the torture out of isolation. There's a great deal of misinformation and misunderstanding about solitary in New York City, but the reality is, no matter what terminology you use, people are facing the cruel and unusual punishment of isolation and carrying the damage of the treatment for the rest of their lives. People in solitary are denied human contact and connection, denied support, and come out of these deplorable conditions worse than when they went in. And some, like Brandon Rodriguez and Lillian Polanco, don't come out at all. By no definition is this correction. It's just convenient cruelty. Committing an infraction in jail can cause you these privileges, but it should not cause you basic human rights. This should not be radical, and it's based on the standards already set for oversight. The DSC has historically shirked oversight and accountability, creating loopholes that allow them to continue abusive practices like harmful isolation. Without clear and enforceable guidelines for what DOC can and cannot do to people in their custody, they will continue to create and exploit loopholes to maintain solitary and isolation by other names. We can de-escalate conflict and provide programs and resources to prevent harm, or we can perpetuate it by inflicting irreparable harm to our fellow New Yorkers' mental health. We can have the due process our legal system was founded on, or we can deny it. I want to stop now again and thanking all the advocates, the people who have felt the effects of solitary and their families for helping us move the bill over the last long years. I want to thank all of the elected officials and labor leaders who have helped us get to this point of a vote. Shout out to 1199 who just signed on to both of my bills. This bill is better because of the people in the movement who worked on it. It creates a process to separate, to de-escalate, but not to isolate. It does not prevent someone from being removed from a situation where they are dangerous to themselves or others. Instead, it makes clear the process for doing so and the minimum standards of humanity that the system must follow. People watching at home may be hearing that for the first time because there has been an aggressive misinformation campaign against the bill by people trying to uphold the status quo. But we can't accept the status quo. Under the status quo, dozens of people have died on Rikers in the last 2 years. Thousands of people sit in deplorable conditions, simply awaiting trial, and many of those thousands are singled out in isolation, put through torture. Rikers Island is in crisis in part because it's considered out of sight and out of mind. Solitary is even more removed, as our city tries to hide away a practice it's not proud of, yet is trying to preserve. But we have to acknowledge the existence of the practice and the harm it inflicts, and the need to end in reality, not just in name. I'm focused on passing the bill we have, not fighting about the one that opponents have fabricated. I'm focused on ending torture in a city that calls itself progressive. Solitary is inhumane. Isolation is inhumane. It makes our jails less safe, and it makes our city less safe. The opponents of banning solitary are trying to uphold the status quo of crisis and inhumanity, and we cannot allow that in our city. The time is now to finally, truly end this torture in our city. For the survivors who are here today, like Candy and Victor, for the people who tragically harmed, like Brandon Rodriguez, Lalim Polanco, and Khalid Browder, and his mom. For the one, I think I pressed some bad.
Woo! Woo!
For the 117 we know about, being subjected to solitary now, for the many, many more who won't have to because of the work of all of us in solitary, people crowd and isolated voices, but today we're using one loud, unified voice to say solitary has no place in our city. I also want to make sure I'm lifting up the people that work there, all of the people who work there, including our corrections officers. And even though they're in opposition, they are right to bring up the violence that is occurring, not just to detainees, but to corrections officers, the sexual assaults, the assaults. The numbers they put out are true. But what I say to them, that is happening now with the use of solitary and with the use of punitive segregation. That means it's not working. That violence isn't occurring because of this bill. We believe it is occurring because this bill hasn't been in effect. The things that you are doing are causing harm to everybody on that island who work there, who are detained there, on both sides of that bar. And we want everybody on both sides of those bars to be safe and to come home how they went in. That's not what's happening. And so what we want to do is pass a bill that allows you to separate people when needed and provide the services and programs that we have to, but not isolate them. Because we know that isolation causes physical and mental harm that goes on years after for life. We also know that it causes people 2 times more to be rearrested when they're released. That makes it not safe for anyone in Rikers or when they come home and the community. So please, I agree with your numbers. I agree with the lack of safety, but that is what's happening now. Join us in saying if we want something different, we have to do something different. And that's what this bill is about. Thank you so much.